since we've been working with trig functions in terms of the law of cosines, law of sines, all that good stuff, we also need to look at the graphs of these as well as the inverse trig functions. And the reason why we want to look at the inverse trig functions is because we've been looking for, how to find different angle measures, but we've been dealing with that in terms of triangles. We also need to look at that in terms of the unit circle, as well as the graphs of our inverse trig functions. So I'm first going to start off with the unit circle stuff because I think that's a little bit easier to go through, and the graphs will make sense because we're talking about, the graphs are based off of the unit circle. So to start off with, remember that all of your values here are in the form of cosine theta, comma sine theta in terms of x, comma y when we're looking at our unit circle. So before, when we were looking at the unit circle, I would give you a radian measure and you would have to find the cosine or the sine or even the tangent. Well, with the inverse sine or the inverse trig functions, you're actually going the other way. So for instance, if I were to say cosine of square root, the inverse cosine, of square root 2 over 2 equals theta. So your job is to use that unit circle in order to figure out the different radian measures in terms of theta. Now, what you're doing here is you are going through and trying to find where is the cosine value square root 2 over 2. So the cosine we know is the x variable, so I see it here as well as here. So then you just have to match it up with the radian value. So you're going to have two different options in this case, and that's totally fine. Theta is then going to equal pi over 4 as well as 7 pi over 4. So you're just using that unit circle to go the reverse direction than what we did originally. So let's say that I want the inverse of sine of a half. And let's make it fun. Let's go with negative a half. So again, I'm looking for the sine value where it equals negative a half. The sine is with the y. I see it here as well as here. So I just need to find my radian measures then. So my radian measure, or my theta, is going to be 7 pi over 6 as well as 11 pi over 6. I don't have the tangent values on here, but you can do the same thing using your unit circle when we're talking about the inverse of tangent. It's the same concept. Next, we're going to be looking at the graphs of these and talking about the domain and range. And when we're talking about the domain and range, it is when we deal with inverse functions, remember that an inverse is where you flip the x and the y coordinate. So before, with a cosine, we would have had a wave, and it would have gone across, or it would have followed along the x-axis. Well, the cosine, though, the inverse cosine, doesn't necessarily follow along what you would think would be the y-axis. It does to an extent, but there is a definite starting and stopping point. And like I said, we're just going to be looking at all of our inverse trig functions in terms of the graph. And we'll talk about the domain and range. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go to each, or go look at decimals because I can graph all of them all at once. It's a great tool. I'm going to actually, this is all three of them at once, but I'm going to close it out so we can just talk about each one specifically. And I went backwards, of course, on my chart there. So cosine here, we can see that the cosine value starts at 1, 0. Or I should say it ends at 1, 0. The starting point is a kind of a funny value, but I'll give you, if you notice, it goes a little bit past 3. And when we're talking about radians here, we kind of have an idea, okay, if it's a little bit past 3, what value does that mean? That's going to be our pi value. So going back to our sign here of our domain and range, oh, sorry, I should go back to that. I'm going to talk about domain and range. The domain along the x-axis, how far to the left does it go? How far to the right does it go? We can see that it goes from -1 to 1, which makes sense because the original sine graph or cosine graph goes from a minimum on the range of -1 to a maximum of the range of +1. So that makes sense. So cosine here, the domain, is from -1 to 1, and our range is from 0 to pi. Now let's go back and look at the sine graph. The sine graph has a similar kind of wave function, but it definitely has a different range value there. Notice the domain, though, are going from left to right there. It's the same value, which makes sense, again, because when we look at the original sine value function, it goes from -1 to +1 as well. So switch back here. The range on this one is -pi/2 to a +pi/2. Notice I'm using brackets here because those points are included. Sometimes it won't be. Now, looking at the tangent graph. The tangent graph is totally different than the sine and cosine, but it was different with the original tangent graph here. So if we look at this, in terms of our domain, it just keeps going on forever and ever. As you can see, when I shut that out, it just keeps going on forever and ever in terms of the x, or the domain. But the range, actually, let's pull up this one, the sine. Notice, if I were to zoom out here, the top of this red graph, aka the inverse sine graph, and the inverse tangent kind of follow along the same y in terms of our range if you look at that from both directions. And that, in fact, is the same. They do carry the same range values. So the tangent here, inverse tangent, is from -infinity to +infinity. They share the same range except for the fact you do not include it. It has a limit. It's going to approach it but never actually touch it of that -pi/2 and +pi/2. So these are our inverse trig functions and some of their characteristics.